All right, and we are officially live with our second reality recap of Survivor Dearborn Season 2 Blood versus Water. I am joined with my co pilot, Drew, on this journey of recapping Survivor Dearborn in all its glory from the past 4 seasons. Drew just watched Survivor Dearborn Season 2 for the first time. Drew, initial reactions in a couple of words.
Oh, Dom, it's good to be back in your court. Usually when we podcast, like I said last time, we're kind of in my field, so I'm glad to be back with your series.
Mhm.
And season 2, I'm not gonna lie, is one of the best seasons of Survivor I've ever watched. I've recommended it to people who I know are Survivor fans. The cast was great TV, the gameplay was strong, lots of canoodling going on. Which was great to see canoodling coming back from season 1, and I loved it. It was a great season.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you liked it. And are we noting that uh, it's one of the best live games or one of the best seasons of Survivor, hands down? Like
It's
what?
one of the best seasons of Survivor I have ever watched.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying. Just wanted to put that out there as well. But I also want to give a nice shout out to two of our guests from season 2. We have our first juror, Charlie Rich, joining us
Rob.
today, who Drew and believes in Rob. And then we have
Thanks, man.
Delano, who got 8th place in
Rob.
season 2.
Yep.
Yep, another robbed person. We will be discussing their games and kind of going more in depth on that and hearing what their behind the scenes stories were and maybe justifying some of their wrongs. I know some of them went out on some less than stellar ways to go out, but again, just noting for our audience that will be tuning in, we will only be discussing season 2 and season 1. If you want to go check out our season 1 recap, feel free to dive right into that on Live Reality Games YouTube channel. But for now, we will only be discussing season 2, no season 3 or 4 spoilers. But let's jump right into it. Charlie, I guess for the first hopping right into it, you had a very interesting time going into the season. So I really want to get your perspective. If you want to take that trip down memory lane, you were supposed to be on season 1, but that timeline didn't really work out. So you were the first immediately cast on season 2. What was it like, that anticipation going into that season? And, how did it contribute to you, do you think, the way you ended up playing the game?
Well, yeah, Dom, I mean, me and you have been friends for a really long time, and the same is the case for me, you, Noah, and Matt. We kind of have this foursome of friends that we've had for a really long time. And since none of you were involved in season 2, I mean, you were the host, but Matt and Noah had already played in season 1. I felt a lot of pressure on myself, and I think you can see that in my gameplay. I was very nervous. I don't think I played a terrible game, but I definitely had a one-track mind of just trying to hammer through and took things a little personally. I just really wanted to win. And so going into it, I was like, if I don't win, it's a failure. Like, I didn't want to reach up to a certain point. I wanted to win. And that's kind of where I was going with that season.
Yeah, Drew, what was your initial thoughts kind of seeing Charlie's game play out? Because he was a force from his first confessional.
So I went into the game and I recognized Charlie from your Snapchats. And I was like, okay, this is a guy who I know is in pretty good friends with Dom, so I'm gonna make sure I watch him. But I really didn't need to pay extra attention to you because from episode 1 you were right in front of us. I thought it was hysterical that basically the entire pre-merge you were like, I'm not a leader, and then dictated every decision. That's a very me thing to do. Every live game that I've played, I've ended up doing the same thing. Charlie, you were great to watch. You were an instant favorite for me. I told Dom, I think, similar to what I said about Matt from season 1, I was like, Charlie is clearly a good player, so I want to root for him, but I don't want to root for somebody who's so far ahead of everybody else in their playing ability. So, I mean, I was rooting for you, but
you might be one of my only fans. Let me tell you that.
I was like, it's too easy to root for him. That's boring. But yeah, you were great to watch. You were robbed. I mean, I don't know how else to put it, but I loved watching you, and I really hope that you're playing on season 4.
Yeah. Thanks.
And then I feel like on the opposite spectrum for season 2, we had a very under the radar player in Delano, I guess. He was more, I don't know. Delano, do you want to describe your approach to kind of going into season 2?
Yeah, so I was just kind of like new to all of it, to be honest, and I played one of the most straightforward games anybody could play. I straight up told people like, "Hey, I'm not flipping because I don't want to stab my alliance in the back." I trusted people way too much, and I mean, I didn't even realize I was on the bottom on like the first loss, and then we ended up winning 5 in a row. So I didn't do like any canoodling. So, yeah, I mean, just a pretty simple, straightforward game. I I mean, everybody knew where my head was at, which I mean was great for my alliance members, but not so great for people who weren't in my alliance. And then it was even better for my alliance members because they knew exactly what I was going to do, especially later in the game. So, yeah.
Yeah, Delano, watching you, like 7 or 8 episodes go by, and then we get to merge, and I'm like, who is this kid?
I don't blame you.
I feel like that was a big struggle. I feel like for me, at least from the producing standpoint, was giving such balanced edits to our players. Mostly a big struggle was some of our players didn't really, get a lot of confessionals in or didn't, get a lot of screen time because, they were sitting back eating crispy rice. Meanwhile, you had big personalities like Charlie and Val and like all these people making big, game moves or game like confessionals that are dictating the whole game. It was very easy for those conversations to get swept under the rug for other players. But one thing I did really want to touch on, and I feel like it's the big transition from our last podcast into this one, was how the game had evolved from season 1 into season 2. Because season 1, I felt like we had, two very dynamic forces in how two tribes went about the game. You had, the green tribe who just stuck together through thick and thin, and then you had the purple tribe, which was pure chaos and did whatever. And I felt like going into the game, a lot of people tried to replicate it to various success. So I don't know, Drew, what was it like kind of watching two after watching season 1?
I mean, I think I told you, I'm like looking back through the text that I was sending you as I was watching, and I was like, this season is so different because you could tell that most, if not all these people watched season 1, but had not watched any other Survivor, which I thought was really interesting. Like, I think that's why the canoodling term stuck, which I thought was really funny that it sticks. You could just tell, like, the focus compared to watching other seasons of Survivor was so different because it looked like your players got into the game and the focus is on idols immediately. And it's like, where's the social game? Are we doing social game this time, or are we just focusing on it? Was great. I love it. It's completely different from any other Survivor that I've ever watched. Like, you can tell people kind of think they know what they're doing, and like it works for people somehow, but it's like it's so non-traditional. I loved it. It was amazing. I was thrilled the entire time. I mean, not with some of the boots, but I was thrilled.
I'm glad you very much enjoyed it. It was big for us from the production level to, elevate it from, one yard that we were at to having 2 properties and having a big field in it. It definitely changed the game in a completely different way and made it a lot more competitive. I felt like separating them from the get-go into 2 different teams, and they were predetermined. Everything kind of went into it. But one of our big twists that we did, well, I guess big twist, was our blood versus water aspect of it and having siblings in the game. Charlie played with his brother Henry. We had the Iquinella sisters as well.
Oh, don't bring up Henry to me.
Yeah, I didn't get to play with him.
Yeah, Charlie didn't get. I mean, yeah. So we saw how that played out. Drew, I guess from like the viewer's perspective, did you expect that to have as much of an impact as it did on the game, having those siblings in the game?
I did not. The seasons that I have hosted, I have had a few pairs of siblings, and most of the time when you cast siblings in a game, they're going to work together, and it's just like these people are going to be in an alliance together. They may or may not be ride or dies, but I didn't necessarily, I mean, Charlie and Henry were basically a non-factor in terms of being siblings. And then obviously the sisters was like game changing. And then what was the other pair? The brothers was kind of like, this isn't really relevant. So, I mean, you kind of got all three sides where like one pair didn't even get to play together, one pair played against each other, and one pair were ride or dies. So I thought that was a really fun dynamic.
Yeah, I think I could not have asked for it to play out in a better way, at least, because I felt like each sibling kind of had a storyline. Charlie, going into the game, knowing you were playing with Henry, what was it like, going into the game with that, but also seeing him voted out after the first tribal council?
Yeah, I think seeing him voted out was kind of elevated some of my suspicions of people on the other tribe not really wanting me in the game. As much as you don't want pregame and stuff, with Seasons of Survivor where everyone knows each other, there's pregame that happens and people make jokes about voting other people out. And some of those floated around. And then so once they got rid of Henry, I was like, wow, they actually want to come for me too. So I think that vote kind of changed my focus on the whole season, but I was also really disappointed not to play with him. I mean, Henry was really excited to do it. And I think you saw in the first episode, he wasn't going to be a non-factor if he stayed in the season. I think he had a mind for the game and was trying to make valid decisions and valid reasons for the younger people to stick together and make it to the merge together and vote out some of the older people. And a couple of decisions didn't go his way. And I'm mad at a couple people for not hearing him out.
The maddest I've ever been watching Survivor Dearborn was the Henry vote out, because I was a Henry stan for that first episode. I told Dom episode 1, like halfway through, I said, I'm a Henry stan. Henry's either going to go out really early playing hard or he's going to be a finalist. There's no in between. I need Henry to do well. And then he got voted out episode 1 and I had no idea he was going out. I was so mad.
Oh, yeah. The worst part, too, is that one of those backyards is my family backyard. So once Henry got voted out, he had to go sit in the family room with the big windows and see everybody playing. And people would knock on the door and be like, hey, can you give me some water? Can I come in and use the bathroom? Poor Henry had to help him out.
Yeah, that was a rough vote for me, especially because I knew how the first vote is always a rough one in these games, because the excitement's built up and you've only been playing for like an hour and a half at that point.
Yep.
So especially for that season, it was a big blow to see Henry go that early, and especially in the editing room and knowing how good of a read that he had on things. It really sucks seeing him go early, but I don't think without Henry going that early, we would have seen the flame arise in Charlie to give us the pre-merge that we deserved. But yeah, any other comments, I guess, on the first boot or going into the game? Like, anybody sharing thoughts, or you want to move on to like what the next portion of the game was?
We can move on. Go ahead.
Yeah, really quick. I was on the other side of the vote. I didn't vote for Henry, so no hard feelings.
As you should.
Exactly. I liked Henry, but
hard feelings for future votes. But
yeah, but
I have a quick question. How old were you guys when you played?
Season 2, Henry was 14, I think. Henry was the youngest contestant that we had.
Yeah.
And then Charlie, I think was
19.
18, 19, yeah. And then Delano's group. I feel like this is the season that you start to see the age divides play a role into it. So we previously talked about on our season 1 podcast of how you kind of had my friends and then you had my brother's friends that were playing, and you kind of saw like a little bit of working together, but not really like fully trusting each other. I feel like this was the first season that you really got to see the people that were willing to work with each other and the people that were like underclassmen strong or like, college kids strong, and everybody kind of just fell accordingly. So I think like Charlie, Santana, Val, Elena, they were kind of more in that college mode. Haley as well. Ryan, they were like 19, 20 playing the game. Delano, Emily, Gian, Patrick, they were more in the underclassmen. Andre as well, like 16, 17 range, 15, 16 range. Mm-hmm. And then you just had like Henry, the Hancocks, like kind of just sprinkled in. And so it was a very big like power struggle, I feel, pull that was more evident watching it back than you really were there filming it. Like you really didn't see how things shook up until the episodes started coming out.
But I also feel like that's a reflection on like Real Survivor too. I think in Real
Yeah.
Survivor, a lot of times first, second, third votes, they're targeting either the oldest person or the youngest person.
Yeah, you got to find an outcast early.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So speaking of outcasts, we got a whole string of them along the way to our first swap. If we want to touch on each one, our fallen soldiers along the way.
Yeah, run through the boot order for me real quick.
So of course we lost Henry, who
Yeah.
I felt was a very big juxtaposition and a shift in the initial shift of how you see Survivor Dearborn go. We in season 1 we had a string of volunteers going out first, and Henry, first off the bat, strategic vote out. I think that was a rough one, and then we had Gian, who was unceremoniously voted out in a unanimous vote. That was due to some behind the scenes stuff. He ended up getting called to basketball practice and had to get voted out. So my nice red tribe decided to perpetuate a storyline for him to get voted out, and it made Charlie look that much worse.
If somebody okay, I don't understand. This is just Survivor Dearborn, but also like all fan-made Survivors. If somebody volunteers to be voted out or has to go, why would you vote them out if they have to go anyway?
Yeah.
It's a very good question.
Take out somebody else.
I just want to give Dom something to salvage for the episode. I didn't want it to be season 1 where a bunch of people got.
They were.
I would have shamed him and told him to leave.
Yeah. Yeah. Gian was. I knew how bad he wanted to be there, though. Once his practice was done, he
he was fun.
Came back right away to help film. Like he wanted to be there. And then we had Patrick Byrne go out.
Robbed.
Another.
Yeah, that was a bad one.
Yeah. And that, I think, was our first time that we really saw Charlie start to kind of like waver on his like decision making. I think that was like his big vote out that shifted the tides for how the game was going to go, because I felt Patrick was loyal to him. And
he just kept drilling home that leader point. That was
I don't know why he would think that, Charlie. I don't know
why. I mean, I didn't make any decisions.
And then Anna got voted out right after.
Anna robbed also.
It was quite the boot order.
I promise not everybody I think is robbed, but this pre-swap was really rough for me because like all the people that I was like, yeah, I really like these people, like all got cut pre-swap, and so pre-swap ended, and I was like, I have to pick new people now, I guess.
Yeah.
So at this point, Drew, I guess the question that I have for you is, at the swap, this was our first swap. We finally got a budget to purchase more fabric from Joanne Fabric to be able to do 2 sets of blue buffs and red buffs, and I don't think the cast expected it coming at all. Do you guys remember where you were at like mentally for that swap?
Oh, my little group of however many people we had at that point were trying to scrap together some sort of plan going forward. The swap. I was talking merge. Oops. Swap, yeah, I didn't really see that coming, and it really shifted the game, I think. I mean, we were already losing a couple challenges going into that swap, but there was no hope once Evan went to the other side, and we had no chance at winning tribal immunities.
Yeah, I felt that was a very uneven swap going into it. Drew, what were your thoughts from the viewer's perspective, seeing these 2 tribes, the new blue and new red, because we were so creative with our tribe names then?
Oh, no, I did mine the same way, so I'm right there with you. But I don't know. I was kind of like, okay, I like that things are being shaken up. I have to pick some new favorites now that all of mine have been taken out. So I enjoyed it. I liked seeing that people were surprised by it because, like, if you watch Survivor, there are swaps, but, like, these people don't watch Survivor. So I was like, this is great. Like, I cannot emphasize how great it is to watch a Survivor season with people who have never seen Survivor. Like, it truly is amazing to me, and I'm going to keep saying that. Mm-hmm. It was great. I mean, obviously, it didn't exactly turn out the way that I or the people voted out wanted in the long term, but, it happens. It's Survivor.
So we saw immediately off the bat, I remember you texted me, this is one of the best swap episodes I've ever watched
Yes.
because of the Charlie and Haley dynamic going head to head. Basically, in one of the most messiest vote outs, I feel like, in Survivor history, where Charlie ended up coming out on top after Haley accidentally leaks the plan to Matt Gaynor as Charlie is walking behind her. And instead of, playing it off, she
melts down.
down. And so, Drew, what was it like watching that play out?
I was glued to the screen on that episode. That is one of the best episodes of Survivor I have ever seen. I like the Randy boot from Gabon is number 1, and this is number 2. Like it's like I don't have words. Like the entire time I was like, these people are crazy. Like Haley is hilarious. She melted down at the slightest mishap, which I thought was great. Charlie, you took it over the top with your reaction and trying to like get back at Haley. It was great.
It could have been easy. It could have been easy. Oh, I was so cringy.
I think
No, you aren't cringy. You were great TV.
Thank you.
One of my favorite facts about that entire episode was it was initially Emily that told Haley didn't want to go for Charlie at all. And it was Emily that told Haley, this is going to be a 4-4 split unless like you go for Charlie because I'll vote with you to go Charlie. And Haley's like, okay. And then the minute like she ends up giving Charlie the idol to play to get Haley out, it was some of the messiest gameplay from all aspects. So I want to give credit where credit's due for Haley for, trying her best in that situation because there was really no wiggle room whatsoever in that game. You had Matt Gaynor swapping his vote because Charlie gave him a Belvita. You had you had like Ryan who was trying to like hear Haley out and like hear other things. It was just such a chaotic episode to edit, but it came off so fun.
I agree. I think what I liked about it is by the time we got to Tribal, so many conversations had happened between so many like duos and trios of people that I truly could not tell where people's loyalties were until the votes were read. And that is what I really enjoyed. The chaos of like, okay, this duo is saying they're voting for Charlie, but like, are either of them actually voting for Charlie, or are they both lying to each other, or is one of them? It was great, perfectly executed in the editing, and I'm sure being there in person, Charlie, it was just chaos.
Oh my gosh, yeah! It turned from main point to try and get Gaynor to flip on Haley because from the get go, I thought it was Haley gunning for me just because. I feel like Emily might have whispered that into my ear after she gave her the idea. So credit to Emily for causing some confusion, but. From the get-go, it was try and get Gaynor to fill up. That's the way to go. And then I started like getting real nervous about my own tribe. Andre, I had no clue what he was going to do. Ryan, I don't think wanted to vote for Haley. I thought he might have just thrown a random vote on like Santana or something, which would have ended up me going home. So then the goal shifted to just convince Emily to give me her idol and play the idol no matter what, which was a misplay, but it also guaranteed safety for another round. So I can't dig it too much.
Yeah. It was a fun episode to watch, and I think it gets followed up by one of our it could not have a better sequel episode than what we saw next on what happened with Santana voting with Haley and her losing the challenge, and then Charlie out of the goodness of his heart goes and tells her that she's the next vote out. She goes and finds an idol, plays it, and somehow Matt Gaynor ends up going.
When Santana played that idol, Dom, I texted you like, oh, I think I texted you like, oh, glad to see Santana save herself because I really enjoyed Santana. But when that idol was played, I shut my laptop and went and called one of my friends and was like, I've just witnessed one of the most shocking idol plays because I had no idea. I was like I'm watching my friend's Survivor season and I have just been like it was right after I watched the previous episode. I was like, I just watched one of the craziest, most chaotic episodes, and then all of a sudden, like somebody who was dead meat plays an idol and idles out somebody else who I was rooting for. Like props to, I think I texted Dom the other day. I was like, Dom, I'm coining the term Santana because I love Santana. Like I am so excited to see that she's playing on season 3. I watched the first episode of season 3 and I was like, yes, glad to see her back.
Yeah, that was an epic moment to even like edit because I didn't know, even as like the host, what was happening until I went back and I counted the votes. And one of my crew members were like, Santana has an idol, like you have to arrange it all to say Santana at the front. But even I remember editing it, like it was the very last clip that I had before Tribal, and you can hear me in the background be like, all right, we're lining up for Tribal, and she like lifts up a leaf and like found it and everything.
Crazy.
The minute I saw that, I was like, I know how I'm editing this, because that's exactly how it felt like reading those votes. It was so epic from her to play that.
And props to her. She made it seem like she didn't have a care in the world about going home. So yeah.
Okay, so
I knew I was going to get a little bit of a villain at it, so I was trying to be nice and
high five her on the way
backstage or backstab me like that, but whatever.
So obviously she ends up going either next episode or episode after.
Yep.
But had you guys been able to not lose any more challenges pre-merge, was she going to stick with you, or was she going to flip because you guys had tried to vote her out at that time?
I think she would have flipped for sure.
Yeah.
I think she should.
Like Cam and someone else on the other tribe. I think she would have flipped for sure.
Yeah. She played the best hand that she could with that.
Yeah, she did.
The only other thing that I felt like kept her in the game over Anthony Hancock was Anthony Hancock basically was like, I can get my brother to vote with us, and like that bond was like enough for,
which clearly that worked.
Yeah, right. But that's the beauty of how that whole season played out, was like they were banking so much on these like little like promises that never actually came to fruition. On like that was just a theme throughout the whole series, and like the only like relationship that remained intact was just like the sisters, and everybody believed that they would just flip on each other and go to the like instead of going to the end. And
we thought we had this guy right here, Delano, but Emily overestimated her skills of persuasion.
Delano, I promise I'm getting to talking about you.
That's the part of the of season 2 is it is a very, very Charlie's for lack of a better term, we've always coined it Charlie's cult in season 2. It was his pre-merge group, and that was just basically all we really had to go off of for game, was because they just kept losing. There really was no rhyme or reason to it. But the one person that Delano did get to vote out, besides his wasted vote for not Henry, was Jacob Brenner going out on a unanimous vote, and after losing the nice memory challenge, that fantastic challenge that this brain came up with was a nice memory challenge.
Oh, it was a great challenge. It took a lot of skill. I
didn't like it
to win that one.
Not my favorite.
That's one of the worst ones we've probably ever done, but it did lead to one of our, I guess, iconic boot outs, I guess. I don't know how you felt about watching Jacob play, Drew, but from our perspective on the crew, he was a very big like mover and shaker, I guess, and it just kind of bit him in the butt because they just didn't lose too much. Drew, what was your thought process watching Jacob go and play, I guess, throughout?
I think through the first couple of episodes, I was like, okay, this guy has the personality to be a good TV character. He sounds like he knows what he's doing, but nothing is happening. Like, this is going to sound rude, but I was bored by his game because he didn't get to do anything. And then he gets voted out, and I'm like, okay, this is a filler. Like, this is a filler spot on the cast. And Dom texted me, and Dom was like, really? And I was like, I'm assuming he's going to play again because he must have something more to offer that, like, he just didn't get the opportunity to. And it's not that he was like bad at the game or bad TV or anything. It's just like he didn't have the opportunity. So he's another one that I'm keeping my eye on going into season 3 because I'm like, I feel like he has more than was given.
I agree with you. I think one of the biggest shocks that I had that didn't even leave an impact on you was definitely him going through Cam's bag and finding an idol, because that was a very, very kind of pivotal moment in Survivor Dearborn of how the game, kind of got played and what constituted as like a villain move or a hero move. Because not only did he just look in his bag, but he told Elena about it, like out of all people to tell, like he told her about it and she used that information for the rest of the game. And I think it really, for me at least in the editing booth, that was a very pivotal moment that defined what a villain was in Survivor Dearborn standards, at least.
Sure, yeah.
So for me, it was kind of like a shock, but he did kind of putter out at the end, and there really was nothing that he could do on the tribe. Delano, I guess if you want to recall, it was a unanimous vote for him, but what were your thoughts in that one vote out that you had?
I mean, it was a pretty straightforward vote. I mean, I would have considered what he was saying, but I didn't like that he went through Cam's bag. I'm like, that's his personal property. And like, I don't know. It kind of put in perspective, like, wow, everybody means business. Like, we're going to start playing like this. Obviously, I didn't, but I'm like, yeah, I don't want to see this happening forward. If I get an idle throw to my bag, I'm screwed. So I don't want to see him kind of progress. I did like him, though. He was a lot of fun to play with, though.
Yeah, I think another problem that Jacob had is that you could tell he was trying to be a villain, and when you're in a game with people who can tell that you want to be a villain, people don't want unpredictability. People don't want the possibility of disloyalty. And so like when you can tell someone's trying to be a villain, you got to take that out. And I think that's something that he had to overcome in that game that he just didn't get the opportunity to.
I think there's definitely a factor of, for him especially, he was another close friend of Dominic's at the time, like playing enough for the cameras and trying to make it entertaining, I think took up a lot of his mind. And I think if he could have just focused more on personal relationships, it would have helped him. I was really disappointed to see him go. I thought if he would have made the merge, it would have given another route for our team maybe.
Definitely.
He would have shaked things up. But yeah, I think he had a very, very set on entertainment.
Nice. Well, we're going to pause right now. The next person that got voted out was Santana. It was hard to see her go, but it was a very straightforward vote episode, as we kind of already talked about. But I feel like if we're going to transition into the merge part, because it is a completely different game, we should give a nice shout out from Dustin saying Charlie is his favorite. I remember he messaged me that after season 2 or season 3 aired, or one of them, and he's like, yeah, Charlie's an all-timer. And so you got another fan out there, Charlie.
You guys don't know how happy it makes me.
Charlie, you have 2 fans. How does that feel?
There we go. Pretty good.
And we'll be adding Evan to the stream. He was our final juror from season 2. Evan, it's good to see you again, man.
What's up?
What's up, man?
You hopped in at the best time to do so. We have Delano and Charlie here. We already discussed Charlie's whole pregame or pre-merge and how all that turned out for him and his group of new blue tribe and your old red tribe. But we're about to hop into the merge and kind of talk about and reflect a little bit about how that whole all developed and everything. So I don't know if you want to just hop in and kind of give your thoughts on, where your head was at, I guess, pregame and how that kind of developed throughout the pre-merge. I think that'd be a great place to start and transition into the merge.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's
putting me on the spot here.
Yeah, it's thinking back quite a bit for you. I know that you got casted and you were pretty excited to go. You were one of our bigger guys to play, and I feel like you came into the game not as connected as people, but you formed connections very, very quickly. And they were not just off connections oh, you don't vote me. You had people, willing to go to bat for you. And I think that was a big contributor to your game and how you made it so far. But if you want, what was it like, I guess, coming into the game and even playing, that first half? Was it what you expected?
Yes and no. I feel like, obviously the challenges and camaraderie and competition and everything was kind of as expected, but there's always little wrinkles that got thrown in there, kind of things that are unexpected. And I honestly wasn't too familiar with Survivor outside of when I started playing Survivor Dearborn. So kind of just hopping in and wanted to get the right balance of performing well, but also not appearing as a threat to people, because I know people start thinking pretty early about who they have to get out, who they have to target, stuff like that. So finding that middle ground, I felt was the way to go, as far as making sure I made it through the challenges, but also not being someone that everyone's we got to go for this guy next,
Yeah, Evan, I will say watching you through the pre-merge, you definitely played one of the better social games of the season from just what I observed. You went into the merge with a solidified group. You weren't really ever in danger pre-merge, which I thought was great. Well played for the pre-merge.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, and I guess if we're just gonna hop right into our merge episode, it was one of our biggest, I feel, upsets because we had two Titans going head to head with Val and Charlie, and it was just a matter of whose alliance came out on top. Was it Charlie's like band of misfits that kind of made their way
Ragtag team.
ragtag team that made it to the merge, or was it Val's like super strong like winning team that was tried and true to each other? It seemed like, and I guess Drew, what was it like watching that merge episode play out?
That merge episode is what solidified in me on my mind that I want Emily on actual Survivor because Emily knows how to make good TV and it's completely unintentional. That the whole episode where like every 30 seconds she was like, "It's me, I'm done."
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she was trying so hard to convince everyone that it was her. I was like, Emily, there's no shot they're voting you.
She was so funny to me. I would love to see Emily play again. I'm hoping maybe that she plays in one of your future seasons that I haven't seen yet. Because I loved Emily, but when the votes started coming out and I realized like fully that it was between Charlie and Val, I was like, ouch, my heart. Because both of the two of you were two of the people who I was rooting for the most on the season, and I was not happy, to say the least. But the actual drama and gameplay was top tier. So props to all of you for that.
Yeah, I think that was one of our like most chaotic merge votes, hands down, because everybody was trying to pull the other person that people were trying. Andre and Emily were trying to pull Delano. I think Charlie was trying to pull Evan back to his side. Anthony Hancock was trying to pull Michael, and there was just a lot of like dynamics just going back and forth of everything playing out. And on top of all that, Charlie finds an idol at the merge. I believe this is the one that Elena ends up getting an advantage. Meanwhile, Delano Cam still has his idol from the pre-merge, and it was just one of those biggest like Texas shootouts that nobody even knows what's going to happen until the votes get read.
Yep.
And the dust settles and an idol doesn't even get played. So Charlie goes home with the souvenir.
Honestly, Dom, at this point, like after watching season 1 and season 2, you could literally do a season and have one of the tribes just be people who got voted out with idols.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure for some of our returnee seasons, that's how some of the tribes just end up shaking out. It's just people who got voted out with idols in their pocket. And
I gotta say, to my defense, that was 100% being played. When I found it, you're in a backyard, and so every 50, I don't know how many people were left at that point, like 12. They're all eyes on you. I go to give a confessional. I've got 3 people following me, trying to listen to what my confessional's about. So I hit that idol, and then when we get called to line up, I don't have time to go to my bag, and I tried to go back to my bag during the tribal, but apparently it wasn't allowed. Yeah. So I think it could have changed up the season. I wish I would have been able
to. It definitely would have, because Val would have gone out there, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Numbers would have been a lot closer. Would have been very interesting moving forward.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the ones that I will take from a production standpoint, because for me, naturally, as a Survivor fan, like it's just you go to tribal with your idol, So I didn't do that, but now I let them, I tell them to bring bags to tribal. Like this is like if you get voted out, like you're going home with your bag. Like,
I mean, it's happened on Real Survivor where people have been voted out and they left their idols at camp.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
but Real Survivor is a forest. This is a backyard. So I give myself a little bit more leniency.
Oh, of course. You have to.
Yeah.
So Charlie becomes the first member of the jury, and that kind of sets the domino effect, sending home everybody else from that red tribe, or from the new blue tribe, I guess we should say. Ryan gets voted out right after that. Drew, what were your thoughts on Ryan's gameplay throughout the season?
Through the game, I grew to like Ryan more because I could see that Charlie and Emily were the strategic figureheads of that alliance, whereas Ryan was clearly going for the physical and social game, which I really appreciate. I love social players. Of course, I love strategic players as well, but I could see that Ryan was trying to play all sides socially and really build up those personal relationships. So I really enjoyed Ryan. I would love to see him play again. I did see that he's playing on your upcoming season. I'm trying not to watch any of the pregame anything for that until I finish watching Dearborn, but I did see that he was playing again, and I'm very excited for that. I think he's going to be a great social player. I enjoyed Ryan.
Good. I'm glad. Ryan was really fun to watch because he brought like an authentic energy, I felt, to the
Definitely.
game. He didn't really care for alliances. Like he just kind of wanted to go with people that he was vibing with. And that was kind of just like that raw, like, OG survivor mentality that we don't really get to see play out as much as it did. And then we have on the complete opposite going out right after Ryan was Emily. Drew, you've already kind of spoken to her great, presence on the season. Any other thoughts on Emily before we kind of move on?
I just really enjoyed Emily from a character standpoint. Obviously, she was right alongside Charlie in terms of being a strategic figurehead on that swapped blue tribe. But I just really enjoyed Emily as a character. So I would love to see more Emily on my TV. I also want to point out that this is around the point in the game where I started really paying attention to Delano. Because every single vote after the Charlie vote out, they would go to Delano and be like, hey, you really should flip with us. And every episode, Delano was like, no, I'm not doing it. And that's when I was like, okay, this is how Delano's going to get jury votes if he can make it to the end because he's staying loyal to his people. So I was like, Delano, I just need you to make it to the end with like Lily and somebody else who is not going to get any votes. And I know you can win. And this is where I started rooting for you actively.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, that was, I feel like, a big shift in the game for our new red tribe, I guess, for that alliance. So you had Elena, Lily, Michael, Delano, Val, Cam, and Evan, I believe, was their group of 7, and they were very, very loyal to each other. But at this point in the game, they started to kind of like plot each other's downfalls, so to speak, a little bit. And at this point, Delano picked up his first idol as well. And the big twist for this season, one of the big twists was I kind of called it like a blood versus water idol behind the scenes. And so Elena had the first piece. And if she found the second piece to that idol, it would be an idol that can be played after tribal council. And so that was a big, I feel like, maneuvering tactic that she would have to get around because Delano had his idol at that time. And before we kind of get into that, I do want to close the chapter on our new blue tribe with Anthony Hancock. Drew, thoughts on Anthony Hancock and what he was able to do throughout the game?
Through the pre-merge, I was not paying attention to Anthony. I thought he was going to be pretty filler on the season, and not in a bad way. Just because you're filler doesn't mean it's a bad thing. But like, he was not a personality who I was paying attention to. And there was a point, I don't remember exactly where it was, but it was close to this time where I texted Dom something like, I feel like Anthony is a much better player than we're seeing. Because I feel like his reads on things were very good. He did find an idol at one point, which is, I mean, props to finding an idol. I don't know. I just feel like Anthony was a better player maybe than shown on the season. I could be wrong. You guys would tell me if I'm wrong.
I 100% agree. He was, I think like I started kind of more playing with him like 1 or 2 votes before the merge. So I didn't get much time to play with him, but you could definitely tell he was thinking about the game and thinking a couple steps ahead rather than what I feel a lot of people on the season were thinking was just who will vote next. I think he had a plan. I don't think he was really good at articulating that plan, but I think he had a really good head for the game.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when I'm watching and I'm, Dom asks me like, I need live updates, and I love it. And like after each person's voted out, I kind of give Dom my opinions on them on like, yes or no, do I want to see them play again? And then in what capacity do I want to see them again? I think usually I tell Dom like, oh, I want to see this person on All Stars, or like, oh, I want to see this person on a second chance season because maybe they didn't get enough of a chance to shine. And Anthony is one of those people who I'm like, I would love to see with some other people who maybe didn't get as much time to shine. And I would love to see more Anthony.
I'm glad. Yeah, he a lot of his stuff either just didn't get filmed. You know, he was a very behind the scenes player, and he was a very, very behind the scenes cast member. Like he just never like came out to. He wasn't the first to volunteer to do confessionals. He was kind of beat to the heart of his own drum, and I think that kind of didn't really get translated. But I could tell from the host perspective, he was calculating at that point.
Yeah.
And so I guess we end our second night, and so we're left with our final 8. We start off the challenge. Cam ends up winning, I believe, his first immunity challenge, and this is the episode Delano gets blindsided on with the idol in his pocket. And were you able to kind of like understand the whole logic behind Delano ended up getting sent home?
I understand why they voted for you, Delano, but I cannot think of a single reason you didn't play the idol.
Dude, I don't even know. Like, so
they literally told you.
I know. So the challenge was like the tug of war.
Yep.
I lost Michael, right?
Yeah, you had an upset.
Yeah, major upset. But I'm like, oh no, it's fine. Like we're good. We got the 7. We still got Andre, and then I can think about everything. Like I was just thinking about the here and now. And then Val told me he's the idol, and all I could think of was like, what if I need it in future? Like I could use this probably the vote after, because after Andre, they're probably gonna go for me or Michael. But then I don't know. I walked in and I'm like, okay, like we're gonna use it. And then he's like, all right, if anybody has an idol, please use it. And I just kind of froze. I'm like, and then he's like, all right, I'll read the votes. I'm like, boy, like should have used it.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I was just bummed out. I trusted Elena a lot more. And there was a little bit of a mistranslation too. When I was going out, when I was hugging Val, like the subtitles say good luck, but I was really saying watch out for Elena or watch for Elena. Just to kind of like be like,
you lied to the viewers?
I guess wouldn't be the first time. No, I think that was honestly one of Elena's best moves probably in the entire game. Because like we said, we kind of mentioned before that once Delano got that idol, she automatically thought that was just the second piece to it. And by the time like Delano told her about it and she told him about her second half, she realized that it was not the matching idol to it. And so while, Cam and Evan and Val were kind of entertaining this plan of going for Delano, she kind of went behind the scenes and really like put the pieces into motion to get him out, to make up for that one mistake that she had in the game and that one slip up, and get that out of the game and just kind of play off of like Cam's paranoia and like all that kind of stuff that ended up getting Delano out. I thought that was one of her best moves going into it.
I agree. And Delano, the moment you went out, I was like, okay, I need to see him on another season because he's going to come back. He's going to know his stuff and he's going to be back for blood. And so the moment that I saw that you were on season 3, I was like, yes, it's happening. We're doing it.
We'll see how that shakes out.
Yeah, you never know.
Speaking of other people that get voted out with their idols, we see Cam go out in 7th place. And I think, Evan, this is something that you can kind of chime in and speak on because Cam seemed to be your number one throughout that, the majority of that game. And that was another brutal blindside from Elena. I think she was the only one that knew Cam had that idol. And at that point in the game, and seeing him go, what was your kind of thought process moving forward, if you can remember?
I mean, yeah, like Cam, I consider to be like one of my probably closest allies throughout the game. So it definitely put me on high alert after that. Just, first of all, just numbers going down. I knew things were going to get dicey. So, the people you can truly trust, even with the alliances that had formed earlier in the season, even those you kind of start to question. So then when he goes out, it just got the paranoia just continued to increase. Like, who can I really trust? Have to kind of try and listen to every conversation that I can, make sure I'm in the loop on everything. And like try to verify things that I hear from like other people and see if I can catch anyone trying to tell two people different things. So definitely had to really just up my alertness after that for sure.
I think that was really when we saw a switch kind of flip in you, and you really had to jump more into that. Like, I can't just sit back anymore. Like, this is like game time. I remember you like army crawling, trying to get information from like Elena really sitting at the curb or something, and you're trying to, listen in on their conversation.
That was a great moment.
Yeah. Like you went into full mode, and after Cam got sent home with that idol, I believe you ended up winning the final 6 challenge, which is why Val ended up going home, if I remember correctly. But you had quite a immunity streak at that end, trying to save yourself. Oh no, you actually found that idol. You found the idol that saved you at final 6.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So found the idol at final 6, won immunity at final 5, and just couldn't pull it out at that final 4 challenge. But we'll kind of get into more of that. Drew, before we get into that, thoughts on Cam playing? Brendan's brother, whose legacy was better after season 1 or season 2? Were they both the same? Like, what was the thoughts after?
I did not have any thoughts on Cam. That sounds bad. I was just like, Cam was not someone who I was really paying attention to during the season. I don't know. It was like nothing negative. I have no negative thoughts towards Cam. I also don't have any positive thoughts towards Cam. Like, I don't know. For some reason, Cam is just not someone who I was drawn to watching. Obviously, I know he's playing again in season 3, so I will be watching him more closely after seeing him have such a good run in season 2. But I mean, another person taken out with an idol in their pocket is always, it's a Survivor Dearborn staple at this point. But yeah, I don't know. For some reason, I just like wasn't really paying attention to Cam's game, so I really don't have a ton of thoughts.
I think that's completely fair. I think Cam really was able to sit back for the most part of season 2, and he really didn't have to play the game, because when you're surrounded by people like Evan and Val, like, you're gonna probably hear about somebody coming for like a big guy. And so I feel like it's pretty easy to navigate that, especially for Cam, somebody like Cam. But what I think that you're going to see, especially in season 3, is a lot of these players like Delano and like Cam and Jacob. They come back with chips on their shoulders, because season 3 is filmed right after season 2. They have not had the opportunity to watch themselves.
Yeah. What's the time difference between season 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3?
I think so. 1 to 2 is about a year, and then season 2 to 3 is like a month or 2, month and a half. So they have not been able to see themselves. And then season 4 was a year after season 3. So that's our timeline for that. But yeah, a lot of these players came back with a vengeance, not just from season 1, but season 2 came back especially hungry to play, because their wounds were fresh and they were ready to kind of like come back. So I'm excited to see you watch, these players from season 2 come back to play. Cam, Jacob, Delano, Santana, like all of their games kind of got snuffed early, and they come back and make it count.
I'm so excited. I mean, Delano, Charlie, Evan, all 3 of you know that like once you're out of that game and the game ends and you get to talk with everybody, like the next month or 2 of all conversations somehow get rerouted to Survivor conversations. Yeah. And so to see people coming back that fresh, I know that they have been like, as soon as you're out of the game, like you're ready for like the next month or 2 to go right back in and like undo your mistakes and prove that you can do it. So I'm ready. Though the season 2 obviously the season 1 players I'm excited to see, but the season 2 players I can tell are coming in like ready to go.
Drew, we just took a friend trip to Cincinnati. Me, Dom, Noah, and Matt, and John. And I can tell you, we still talk about Survivor Dearborn. So not just a month or 2 later, but years later.
Years.
Yeah.
Like we'll
It's a lot
talk
of fun
about it for a while.
Yeah.
So somebody that got final 6, and he was probably collateral damage at that point, was Val. He was like the big name kind of throughout the season. He finally got taken out by the Iquinello sisters and their alliance. Drew, what were your thoughts on Val, and just watching his game progress?
At the beginning of the game, I knew that Val was going to be one of the more like alpha male figures on the season. And so I was like, I'm not rooting for an alpha male. I'm going to be different. But then by the time Val got voted out of the game, I was like, no, not one of my favorites again. And I feel like every person who's voted out, like by the time they're voted out, I'm like, they were my favorite. But that's just how it happened with the season. I really enjoy Val. I think Val is one of the people who I would pick out just for, obviously, I don't know what happened like behind the scenes or anything, but Val is one of the people who I would pick out from the 2 seasons that I've watched so far and been like, this person would do very well on actual Survivor. I would love to see Val. I mean, he's pretty good TV. He's a good player. He learned the game fast. I really enjoyed watching Val play.
Watching Val play for me was really fun to watch. He was a last-minute addition to the cast because, you know, as his moniker says, he's in the Navy, was going to Navy school, and he had like a month break, and we were just able to fit him in for season 2. And so that was really fun to be able to like include him in something that, you know, I didn't think that we would be able to do. And he came out swinging. He gave us some great storylines, great confessionals. He had some of the most raw, like authentic approaches to the game that ended up working out for him. I felt that by the end of the game, he kind of turned into like this like anti-hero of sorts, like, you know, telling Delano to play his idol. Like he's still making these moves with the Iquinella sisters, but he's trying to like do as much counteracting as he can to.
He did a great job at playing all sides when he needed to. Like if Val made final 3, I have no question that he would have swept against probably everybody. I don't know, maybe not Elena, but
Charlie, can you confirm, would Val sweep the jury?
I would not have voted Val, but that's because I had some people telling me things that weren't true when I think that swap played a factor into that. I thought Val was this evil mastermind, but no, I think looking back on watching the season through, if he would have made the final 3, I might have voted for him, but in the season, I definitely would not have voted for him.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Val. Val was one of the people, you know, going into that end game around like final 6 or 7. I was like, okay, it's coming down to Val or Elena are probably going to win. And so that's who I was rooting for.
Yeah, and we see, so Val gets voted out, and then finally, New Blue is no more. Andre gets the boot. He loses final 5 immunity. Evan takes the win for that. But he doesn't go out in a ceremonious way. Actually, Michael Hancock gets voted out 3-5. Everybody is or 3-2, and everybody's super confused. Elena stands up, plays her immunity idol that's eligible for after the votes, saves Michael, sending Andre home. Drew, that was another big play.
Genius move for Elena. Proves her loyalty to Michael. So if Michael goes out, she has his jury vote. If he were to go out at final 4, it shows the jury that she's loyal to her allies. She made a flashy move in front of the jury, one of the best moves of the game, and it was not even a risk. Like she did not risk anything by doing that. All she did was gain.
Yeah, Charlie. From the jury, I guess I want to hear from Delano and Charlie. At that point in the game, do you remember who you were rooting for in that final 4 or that final 5? And was that like kind of, you know, as impactful as, you know, it seemed on screen, or was how did that play out for you?
Yeah, I can say, I mean, I didn't really get to play much with Elena. I got to play more with Andre and Lily and a little bit of Evan at the beginning of the game. I would say that it was a big move and like a flashy move, and not being able to see or not be able to play with her, it kind of gave me an inclination more into her game. But I also was like trying to count the votes in my head. I was like, did she vote for him and then make that play? And so it was just kind of like it was cool, but also I didn't really fully understand the vote going into it.
Yeah.
Did Elena voted for Michael or did Lily?
Lily voted for Michael.
Okay, good. That is why. That is obviously Elena knew, but like Elena not being the one to do it is even better for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Delano, what about you? Andre being, you know, one of your closest friends outside of the game. What was it like watching him go out?
I was kind of pissed off, if I'm being honest. I wanted to play with Andre. I wanted him to come to our side instead of me going to his side. And, you know, we had great charisma outside of Survivor, and I think we would have had great charisma like inside of Survivor, but we're never on the same side, so it just couldn't happen. And I mean, I was so mad at Elena already. Like, I was not going to vote for her. I don't care what she does. She does not deserve the vote. Like, I don't know. I was just seeing red at that point, and then seeing Andre come down, I'm like, nah, dude, no way she's getting my vote.
And Evan, I feel like for you at that point, that was a do or die situation going into the Final Four. Obviously, we know how the Final Four challenge turned out and how the vote ended up turning out. Overall, what was like kind of that experience going for you? Like, was it, as sad as like it may feel, or were you kind of like holding on to hope at all?
I don't know. I think it's on my end, but I'm like, it's breaking up for me. You mind saying that one more time?
Yeah, for sure. So going into that Final Four challenge, I feel like the writing was on the wall and it was do or die for you, winning that challenge. And obviously we know how that turned out. What was it like kind of reflecting on the game? What was it like leaving the game? Like, were you proud of what you came? Were you like sad? Like, what was the whole vibe for you?
Yeah. I mean, like going in, I kind of knew writing was on the wall, like you said. It's pretty much win the challenge or I'm out of there. But honestly, like right after, as soon as it was over, it was kind of a mixture of like, kind of disappointed that I was out, a little bit of anger, was seeing a little red, like Delano said, like I should have done this differently, or should have planted some seeds here, all like the what ifs started going through my head. But I mean, overall, looking at it now, or like even maybe like a couple of weeks after or something, like with the emotions settled down, was just overall just a great experience, and reflected and just enjoyed every minute of it. And obviously wish I could have walked away a winner, but to make it down to the Final Four too was a pretty cool experience. So
yeah, Evan, for me, at least from the host perspective, you were one of the funnest ones to watch learn the game because you were just so naturally good at it.
Yep.
And I do know that you did come in with some of the least connections in the game, and seeing you form those bonds and form that game around those bonds was a lot of fun to watch. And it really did come down to a nail biting conclusion for you, because if there was anybody that could beat these sisters at an immunity challenge, it would probably be you or Andre, and be able to pull something over them. So it was definitely a disappointing finish for you, because they were their only obstacle, I guess, in that end game. But it was a lot of fun to be able to edit, and a lot of fun to be able to watch you play. So definitely something good to look back on for you. But going into the final three, we have Lily, Michael, and Elena, the two sisters and one half of the Hancock brothers. The Riches did not make a single appearance at the final three. So unfortunately, we find out how the siblings rank throughout the season. But Drew, what was watching Final Tribal Council like? We did have some angsty jurors. We had some good performances, I felt like, from some of our finalists. And you noted that Lily gave a better performance than what you were expecting.
Yeah, through the game, Michael and Lily were non-factors to me. I knew that there was no chance they would ever win unless the final three were all goats, basically. I don't know if this room knows what goats are in Survivor. Goats are people who make it to the end but have no chance of winning. So I didn't think that Lily or Michael would have any chance at winning unless they were up there with a third goat. But Lily performed very well at Final Tribal. I think that she did a great job, especially of stating her social game and how she maintained connections with different people through the game. I was really pleasantly surprised by Lily's Final Tribal. But honestly, for me, in my opinion, while Final Tribal was really fun to watch, in my mind, it was almost unnecessary. It was just like a victory lap for Elena. I mean, I knew in my head, like, Final six onward, I was like, Elena's sweeping this. Like, Elena is one of the best players I've ever seen play Survivor. She deserved the win for the season, hands down. She played a great game, and I knew going into the Final Tribal, unless every single person on that jury was bitter, Elena was winning. And even if people were bitter on the jury, I didn't see a world in which Michael got votes, really. And I didn't see a world in which Lily got a majority. So even if people were bitter, I just didn't see options of who they would vote for other than Elena. So it was a fun final tribal, but Elena absolutely killed the season, and I'm really glad she won. She's one of the best winners of any Survivor season I've seen.
I would agree with you. I think her path to victory throughout the whole season is pretty poetic in the way that the season started out, with those siblings pairs, and her first confessional saying like how good she's able to work with Lily, and to be able to see how that relationship built throughout the game, and how one person would get information from the other. Like Lily was feeding information during like Charlie's whole like try to pull Lily and Michael over. So Elena had all that information. And then meanwhile, Elena had, the information from Cam, Val, and them. It was just a really fun dynamic to be able to watch to come to fruition. And obviously Elena came out on top with that.
Yeah.
Drew, this is going to, burn a little bit, I feel like, for one of our other winners. So how would you rank our season 1 and season 2 winners? Noah or Elena? Which one do you
I told you, and I told the season 1 panel that I wouldn't have voted for Noah to win out of the season 1 final 3. I think Noah's a good player, and I think he's a good winner, but Elena is miles ahead.
All right, those are some strong words. We will see how the season 3 and season 4 winners fill in accordingly. So I'm excited to see your opinions form throughout season 3. We are already just over an hour, so I already appreciate everybody who's tuned in this long, listening to us rehash some old memories for season 2. Drew, I do want to close out the way that
yes, I've been waiting.
Season 1. And kind of do a hero or villain type of thing, and see if you can guess accordingly how we ended up casting season 4. I do want to start, actually. This might take a little bit longer, but
That's fine. I'm ready. I've thought about this.
Start at our swap, because you were such a fan of our swap, and we did end up pulling some people back from pre-merge. So starting with Haley, would you consider Haley a hero or a villain?
I didn't think about the pre-merge people, so this might take a little longer. Haley, in my heart, a hero, but probably a villain.
Okay. Matt Gaynor.
Hero.
Okay. Who was next? Jacob Brenner.
Villain.
Santana Davis.
Hero.
All right. And then starting off with our first juror, Charlie.
I would love nothing more than to see Charlie on a heroes tribe, because I don't have words for how much I want to see Charlie on a heroes tribe, but the answer is villain.
Okay. Didn't know where you're going with that one. Who is next? Ryan.
Hero.
All right. Emily.
Emily's a tough one, but I think I'm going to say hero.
All right.
That's a questionable one, though.
Anthony Hancock.
Hero.
Okay. Who's after that? Delano.
Hero.
All right. Cam.
Villain.
Val.
Hero.
Andre.
Hero.
Evan.
Hero.
Michael.
Villain.
Lily.
Actually, I'm changing Michael to hero. Lily is probably also a hero.
All right. And Elena.
Villain.
All right. So that wraps up our hero or villain for season 2. Drew, I want to thank you again for taking the time not only to do this podcast, but also rewatch season 2 of Survivor Dearborn. It was an absolute blast being able to talk about it today and relive some of those memories along with our season 2 panel. I appreciate you guys taking the time and reliving those memories. Delano, Evan, and Charlie. It was a blast to have you guys on, and hopefully, if time allows, you guys are able to hop on for some season 3, 4, or even some season 5 recaps for Survivor Grand Rapids or Fresh Meat. Dang, I butchered that. But in the meantime, I hope everybody who tuned in enjoyed everything. I know we kind of went more in depth than we did in the first one. So stay tuned. And while Drew watches season 3, if you aren't caught up yet, feel free to head over to Survivor Dearborn Productions and watch season 3, Fans versus Favorites, where 11 favorites take on 9 challenging fans. I can't wait to kind of delve into that and see what happens with Drew. I'm sure you'll have a blast watching that. And in the meantime, you can find all of our podcasts on Live Reality Games. All their YouTube channel, all their information is on social media. So feel free to subscribe, like our videos, and have a great rest of your night. Thanks for tuning in.